let me talk about Senate Bill 106, and basically that is dealing with methamphetamines and the scourge of methamphetamine on our society. Everyone is concerned about the drug issue in our area, and so am I. There was a bill that was brought forth, Senate Bill 45. Senate Bill 45 deals with taking pseudoephedrine products, Sudafed, and taking it from its current status of being sold over the counter, but you must show your identification to be able to purchase that product. And that system then becomes a database, and so they're able to track who purchases the pseudoephedrine. You know, they feel like that this would slow the amount of illegal methamphetamine that's made in Kentucky. You know, Kentucky's not an island. We've got 7 states around us. The point is, pseudoephedrine would be readily available in Rio, be readily available in Evansville, Indiana, would be readily available in Shawneetown, Illinois, and would be readily available in Metropolis, Illinois. And all 4 of those points are basically across the Ohio River from my legislative district. I'm not trying to take your district, Joe, but you understand. And the point is, if you went to Evansville, Indiana, and bought the pseudoephedrine under this guideline, came back and gave it to your grandchild, you could be charged with a crime. And that's not right. And so we didn't want to, we meaning Senator Jerry Rhodes, myself, and others, didn't want to be opposed to Senate Bill 45 without having an alternate plan. And so we came with Senate Bill 106 that Bill Markle told you about. And 106 continues the same plan of using your driver's license to buy, but as they check at the time of purchase, if you have a previous felony conviction with pseudoephedrine, you would be unable to buy it. Now there's issues with that, and we know that, but we wanted to come with a plan that that was trying to be helpful to the police and the authorities to stop the illegal sale and manufacture of drugs.
The one particular bill, and the one in which I was directed to speak to, and it's a bill that I did sponsor, was Senate Bill 56, which is an act relating to Bible literacy courses in public schools. I introduced this bill the first week of the session. It did get a hearing in committee, came to the floor of the House. It did pass on the floor of the House 33-1, I believe, was the vote on that. Now, what this bill allows for is it's permissive legislation. In other words, it allows for our high schools to teach Bible literacy if our local site-based councils so desire. The State Board of Education would promulgate standards, teacher qualifications that would pass down to the local districts, and they would be allowed to teach this curriculum if there was a demand for it, and if we had qualified teachers to meet the standards that the State Board set forth. It's academic, it's not religious. It provides for education, not indoctrination. No one particular religion is favored, no religion is disfavored. No non-religious belief is disfavored. It's taught from a historical concept, or it could be even considered a social studies course. The Bible has had greater influence on our society and all of Western civilization more than any other text out there. So for the opportunity for our young school children to be able to study this, the book of all books, the most important book ever written, I think is prudent, and it's timely. So that's the reason why I brought this legislation forward. And actually, my predecessor did the same thing. He filed this bill, he got it through the Senate, and sent it over to the House. where it never got a hearing in committee. Now that's where it's at right now, and hopefully we can get a hearing on this piece of legislation.
911. It's a bill I put in last year. I have spoken to, matter of fact, I held public hearings on this in Louisville and in Frankfurt on 911, and I've been doing this for the last 3 years. This bill will not come before a committee this term because the term is so short, but it will come before the term next year. The governor's office has contacted me on this bill, and they want to sit down with me. Leadership has contacted me on this bill. It's a very important bill because what's happening in our society is, and I should tell you this too, my father was a policeman. He passed away 20 years ago. My mother still lives alone on a policeman's pension. And what she has is a landline in our house. And she pays 911 charges on her landline. The problem is, people who go to Walmart, Kmart, Target, the mass merchandise type stores will buy a phone card, but there are no 911 charges built onto those cards. If they have an emergency, they can call 911 and they're biting onto a system which they aren't paying into. And they're asking the people who have landlines to do that. I'm asking that we revisit this. The cell phones do pay 911 charges, but those cards that are in the grocery stores and the convenience stores and the mass merchandisers do not pay into the 911 system, although they can use it. 911 is not free. We must pay for the people, we must pay for the equipment, we must pay for the police, the fire, and the emergency people. So I'm asking that that bill be revisited, and that's why it's on the docket. And it will not be heard until next year when we come up and look at the budget again.
House Bill 3, which is immigration reform. We all know the problems of immigration in this country. Over 12 million illegal aliens. A lot of people concerned about protection of our borders, about illegal aliens coming in and taking jobs that should go to legals, to go to Kentuckians, go to Americans. Unfortunately, there's been an abdication of that by the federal government. So states have moved in a piecemeal fashion to try to address immigration reform in their own way. The Senate passed out a very aggressive immigration reform bill that was modeled very closely, if in some aspects didn't exceed what Arizona did. We took a little bit more tempered approach in the House, tried to design a bill that was tailored more to the situation in Kentucky. We're really not a sanctuary state for illegal immigrants, but we need to deal responsibly with the issue. Our bill simply says that if any subcontractor or contractor that deals with a governmental agency must utilize the E-Verify validation system, which is about 99% accurate. They must make sure before they hire that individual that they go through the E-Verify and then he's validated and sanctioned as a legitimate citizen. That will prevent them from hiring illegal aliens. And also, any agency that does business and hires individuals has to use the E-Verify system. Our objective is to protect Kentucky jobs for Kentuckians. And hopefully this bill will allow that to happen. But quite candidly, Bill, there is a huge difference and gulf between the Senate version and our version. As a result of that, I don't probably think we're going to see any action on immigration reform in this session. But certainly we need to continue the dialogue because it's most important.
I will address the smoking bill. You know, I'm a physician, as y'all probably recognized just a few minutes ago. I've been practicing for 37 years. The #1 health problem that we have in our country is the use of tobacco. And of course, Kentucky for years and years and years have led the nation in this area. I personally would like to see a smoking ban in all public buildings. Of course, I'd like for everybody to quit smoking, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think a smoking ban in all public buildings is important, and it's important for the employees in these buildings because a lot of them don't smoke and they're exposed to this. And you know, a lot of people say, well, if you don't like smoke, just quit your job. Well, yeah, I'm not going to quit my job. Are y'all going to quit y'all's? You know, I have to pay bills, and now these other people have to pay bills too. So I think it's very, very important. Now, again, there's been some revision in this bill, and there'll be a House committee substitute for this bill because there was some imperfections in it when it was first introduced, and we're going to try to address that in the committee substitute. I do not believe it'll actually get a hearing in the Senate. In fact, I want to complain to my colleagues here in the Senate. I want to make sure you understand that not one single House bill has been heard in the Senate yet. Not one single House bill. Now, we did pass one of the Senate bills here just the other day, even though I opposed it wholeheartedly. It passed anyway. Personally, let me tell you why I opposed this bill. This bill gives the optometrist, and there's a big difference between an ophthalmologist and an optometrist. And the big difference is after they finish their schooling, the ophthalmologist spends 4 years in a residency learning how to do surgery. The optometrist does not. Now, you know, my eyes are the most precious thing that I have as far as my senses. And I personally think that I want somebody that has a lot of experience working on my eyes. So let me just strictly say to you, if you have surgery, please let an ophthalmologist do it and not an optometrist. That's my plea. But nevertheless, this bill did pass, and it will go to the governor, and it'll be interesting to see if he signs it or not. I'm going to drop by his office and recommend him not signing it. But
I had a resolution early on that I'm not going to call, and that was a resolution asking Congress to repeal what we really refer to as Obamacare. And I think one of the reasons that I did that is that I think we all agree that health care reform was needed. I think the president really had a real opportunity with this bill, if he had done it probably the right way, to come out and say, I want some bipartisan reform that we really need, some things that we can agree on that will help the system make care better, will reduce cost. But he really didn't do that. What he did is he turned it over to the President of the Senate, he turned it over to the Speaker of the House, who both had really large supermajorities in both their chambers. And they said, you know, we're not going, you know, we have one chance to pass health care reform, and we're going to get the kind of reform that we want. And we're not going to, you know, because we'll have to pare it back a little bit if we do bipartisan reform. We've got the votes, and we're going to do it our way. And what really happened was they didn't have the votes. And because that bill didn't pass as most bills passed, we're going to go to one house, go to the other house, and then the difference will be ironed out in the conference committee. And then the conference report will be voted on. That did not happen. What happened was when they saw they couldn't pass the thing, after they bought everybody they could, after they browbeat everybody they could, that they bribed everybody they could, they finally came back and said, okay, the House is going to pass the Senate bill just as it was, even though the members didn't like it, and then they would pass another bill that would kind of make some changes enough that everybody was okay with it, or at least everybody in one party was okay with it. And that was really the wrong way to do things. And then I also think that it was all pretty clear that the American public wasn't all behind the bill that was passed. And I don't think that anyone, and I certainly hope that I never would, I don't think any of these gentlemen up here ever would say to our constituents, we know you don't like this bill, but trust us, once we know more than you do, once we pass this, you'll see that we were right, and then you'll be happy. I think that shows an arrogance that no elected official ought to have. And I really do believe that what we're seeing now is that all the things that we were told about, you're going to be able to keep your current plan if you like it, not true. If you were told that if you keep your doctor, you're probably really not true. Certainly hasn't done anything to bring down health care costs. Matter of fact, health insurance premiums have risen. In many cases, I've seen 20 and 30% increases. So I really think that we do need health care reform, but we need to do something a little bit different than this. And it may not even be constitutional now that, you know, it's been ruled unconstitutional that the federal government cannot mandate that someone buy a product or pay a fine or whatever. So there are a lot of real problems there. And so, but now the House in Washington already has killed the bill. It's in the Senate now, and so I feel like that what I asked for in resolution has been done. So I'm probably going to withdraw that next week.